Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Kaja Kallas, the EU's chief diplomat, says Brussels will put forward its most far-reaching sanctions listings against Russia since the war began this autumn. Speaking to the German daily Die Welt, as Europe seeks to increase the economic pressure on Moscow. Now, the announcement comes as Ukrainian intelligence warns that Russia has developed a new drone specifically designed to attack electricity pylons, potentially threatening power and heating supplies as another winter approaches. Joining us now is Andreas Umland, Policy Fellow at the European Policy Institute in Kyiv. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me again.
So, Ukraine is already reeling from attacks on its infrastructures, on civilian locations. Tell us about what this potentially says here. A new drone developed by the Russians, designed to attack the energy system. How can you even defend, if that's true, how can you defend against it? What does it mean for the war right now?
Yes, this will be, if it indeed turns out to be an effective weapon, in this way, a major problem for Ukraine. Ukraine is trying to, of course, be ahead of the innovation circle and trying to already sort of design the countermeasures and being able to defend these new Russian tactics. But we will see how this turns out in winter. We had already last winter the attempt by Russia to basically freeze Ukraine, and much will also depend how the coming winter will be, whether it will be as cold as the last one or perhaps milder, and then this may have maybe not such grave repercussions.
Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, this kind of drone, it's still going to impact. If it's not just heating, it could also be gas, it can be water supplies, so all these critical infrastructure areas. At the same time, I'm just wondering, what could Europe potentially do? The Europeans have helped considerably already in the past. You said it was a milder winter last time, but what could Europe do now, and potentially if the going gets tough in these winter months?
I think Europe, out of self-interest, will have to provide much more support in the defense of the Ukrainian energy system, and also in providing help for those civilians who are affected by these Russian strikes, because otherwise we will have, in the worst case scenario, millions and millions of Ukrainians moving to the West if they cannot sustain themselves in Ukraine anymore. And countries like Poland and Germany have already taken many Ukrainian refugees, and this will be a major strain. So I hope there will be some sort of understanding in the West that this cannot happen, and therefore, the support for the anti-aircraft systems, for the Ukrainian drone industry will increase, so that Ukraine can defend itself against these new Russian attacks.
Mm-hmm. Right. And also about gas, a disturbing statistic already, Naftogaz, this major provider in Ukraine, they've already apparently said they've been attacked, their facilities attacked several times already, and here apparently 13 times in a single week, and 293 times already since the beginning of 2026, with some production already offline. Do you already see, is that a pattern already? Are the Russians already in, let's say, their winter energy attack mode here? Is this or just too early to tell?
Yes, these are all very worrisome signs, and this will only increase also the pressure to end the war. But of course, the war cannot end by sort of satisfying the Russian demands to end the war. So the only other way to bring a quicker end to the war is to increase the sanctions, to support the Ukrainian army, also the new long-range strategy of Ukraine, which is trying to basically hit the Russian economy to such a degree that the conduct of the war, the continuation of the war, will become impossible. The stakes are currently increasing, and this is also an illustration that the past tactics or the past strategies of the West in with limited sanctions, with limitations on long-range strikes for Ukraine, have not worked, and that to really achieve an end to the war, one needs to increase the support, both in terms of sanctions and of direct support for Ukraine.
Yeah, Andreas, you mentioned sanctions. I mean, this is exactly also what Europe is hoping for. We have that statement from Kaja Kallas, the chief diplomat, just saying, I think, just in the last sort of few days to a German newspaper, exactly about this. She's planning the most far-reaching sanctions since the outset of the illegal full-scale invasion. We've had 21 sanctions packages. So what do you think? What's different now with this? Tell us a bit more about what's going to come up in October time.
Well, as far as I know, so far, simply the number of companies that will be sanctioned will increase rapidly, and there will be many non-Russian companies as well that have been helping Russia to conduct its trade, to circumvent the sanctions that have been there before. And, well, the package looks impressive, and I hope it will go through, and it will go quickly through, and the sanctions will go into force. But I would also say that such a large sanction package is an illustration of the fact that apparently the first sanctions packages from 2022 were not as resolute and as effective as they could have been. And there could have been also already much earlier a more comprehensive sanctions strategy that would also hit more non-Russian actors that are facilitating indirectly the Russian war by enabling Moscow to conduct trade and to get technology and to circumvent the direct sanctions that have been introduced against Russian companies.
And also, I think we were speaking to our correspondent in Brussels yesterday and I think it was interesting because he also hinted that apparently if this goes ahead, it wouldn't just be that sanctions package that we've seen until now, that it would be actually maybe even monthly sanctions reviewed by the various authorities there. So that would be interesting if that's actually something that comes to pass. Really quickly also, I mean, kind of cram all into one. We've seen also many incursions, drones crashing on NATO's eastern flank from Poland to the Baltic states to Romania. I mean, this is happening more and more often. Where do we stand in your mind in terms of unity with that? I mean, Kaja Kallas has also warned against hybrid attacks. Where do we eventually cross the line between deterrence and something else? Is Europe doing enough in this direction?
No, it's clearly not. And one would have thought that the incursion last year of about 20 Russian drones into Poland should have been the occasion to change the policy. And actually, the number of drones that was flying towards Poland was much larger, as I've been told here in Ukraine, and that Ukraine actually shot down many of the drones that were also supposed to fly into Poland. But this large incursion by numerous drones deep into Polish territory should have changed the policies of NATO, because that's Poland is NATO territory, and now we see basically the results of this sort of timid reaction that Russia is broadening the scope of its hybrid war and is provoking NATO more and more.
Yeah, indeed, and we're still wondering exactly those measures. I mean, there are measures already in place, but as you said and hinted at, there needs to be more that Europe could do, and we'll have to analyze that in our next conversation. Well, look, thanks for that. Appreciate your insights today. That was Andreas Umland, Policy Fellow at the European Policy Institute in Kyiv. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.